Thank you, Chairman. This is some work done with Professor Connor and myself. We are both professors of agronomy and crop ecology. And I am also the director of a research center for research on the management of risk. What risk? Agricultural and environmental management. So we do work with agricultural economists, which is very fruitful. So I'm going to talk about the drivers in research, or drivers that are changing now the production systems and how they will affect the production systems and how they will affect the higher education. Okay, and I'll step in talking about structures on higher education and finalize with some examples of what the work of our students can do, and some topics for discussion. Okay, population will increase where? Latin America, Africa, Asia, and LA. Markets will play a fundamental role. And climate change and variability and emissions are, let's say, some three, the umbrella and the context of our talk. Given the limited new land, we will have to intensify the systems. When we talk about intensifying systems, we don't mean we intensify all the systems. We are working on a yield gap analysis atlas, and we are mapping the areas that could be easily intensified, while we are detecting others that maybe they should go down on their intensification because of environmental problems. This has to be done with respect with the environment. We know that. So the terms, there are buzzwords everywhere, and one important one could be ecological and sustainable intensification. At the same time, there is a qualitative jump on the advances of sensors, electronics, ICT, that allow us to manage the plots and the farms better. There is a possibility of improvement in the management of agricultural systems, or at least some farms. And when I talk about sensors, I include low-cost sensors and all this equipment. Now, agricultural enterprises do contract all kinds of labor. So we have cheap or not well-trained workers, unskilled labor, to highly qualified labor. And we also work in our research center with big companies or farmers dealing all in relation with risk analysis and an instrument to deal with risk. Now, in this talk, we focus on a higher education. So, two comments I would like to put in. We depend on the people. We come from a school with a school curriculum, and there's been changes on that. And my opinion is we could try and convince other degrees like geography, physics, environmental science, chemistry, to put in the idea of agriculture and examples of agriculture when they're analyzing flow of energy, water cycles, or whatever. So they start thinking about agriculture in a scientific way. Our society, when we read the newspapers, I don't think, in my opinion, they are well trained about agriculture. And their opinions transcend thermodynamical subjects and stoichiometry in chemistry. So we have a problem there. Anyway, let's focus. Drivers for change in production systems. Driving for change in production systems. The main driver for farmers, and I'm talking for a farmer as an entrepreneur, the main driver is the increase in supply. So these are large farms, Australia, Canada, Mongolia, grain suppliers. Well, so there is an issue there that will drive changes and demands from the higher education. Of course, we are aware that population increases will occur in Africa and Asia, but the major increases in productivity, be it crops or be it animals, will come from major exporting countries, USA, Brazil, Argentina, Australia. I don't know what Europe is going to say, what to do. Europe is, with all these requirements, are de-intensifying some areas, so exporting the need or exporting the environmental inputs elsewhere. We are aware that the small-scale farmers that produce 70% of the world food needs, and also we are aware of 70% of the people living below extreme poverty are in rural areas. We don't think that these poor farmers will survive with agriculture, or with agriculture only. That needs some socio-economic studies to be done. There's no way that with minimum plot, organic and high-value crops are going to sustain small-scale farmer, especially when the next generation comes in and they have a few children. Anyway, that's intensification. The other topic is efficiency. Large increases in productivity require efficient production. Many of the efficient technologies that make the production efficient lower emissions, so we can be online. That in turn may require, I do say may require, large-scale production units. When we talk about large-scale production units, we should not only imagine big spaces with cereals. We can imagine landscapes with smaller plots, but divided by hedgerows, but all working for a same unit. I will come back to that. Some of the technologies that we need to improve efficiency are costly, so a small farm may not be able to buy it. So we realize that that's one of the landscape I'm talking about. It's cereal, but it's really broken landscape with hedges, creeks, etc. Of course, we have monocultures in olive production, and in the East Coast and the Mediterranean, we have all these groves, orchard groves, that are maintaining the design from the Muslim kingdoms that settled here. So these farmers can work together, so these production units can be made or achieved by amalgamation of these small units and cooperation with them. We have structures, the cooperatives, that can work very well in some of the production systems. And they then can invest, for instance, in infrastructure. The other driver is the food chain value, the connection between agriculture and subsequent consumption. So it will integrate. So much processes can be done on farm or nearby. So there will be a benefit from value-added products, and that's important in some of the developing areas. So a change to production systems. In the previous talk, we insisted on the intensification of the animal production systems. Okay, that doesn't mean these extensive producing Iberian pigs will disappear, no. Or that sheep in Australia grazing wheat will disappear, but they all be existing, and we have to be aware of the potential of each one and improve the efficiency of this system as well of this one, taking care of the welfare, animal welfare. Okay, so the animal production systems will recover fodder from adjacent areas. So there are issues there with transport, etc. So another, well, the effect will be that this dual structure is going to be maintained, and the smaller farmers will be able to specialize, or are specializing now, in products that are higher value or can be sold to niche market like the organic. They have premiums for local identification, etc. So the society that is able to choose will probably choose products that are also environmentally safe product being produced. So consumers will play a role if they have, let's say, the economic possibility to do it. Okay. So in order to meet all these requirements, I'll jump into this. In order to meet all these requirements and be efficiency and obtain benefits from their farms and the enterprises, the key feature of agricultural production will be increasing application of science and technology. And by science, I mean all our areas in agronomy that will be further developed in the other talks. And another key feature is management by measurement. The jump in improving the efficiency can be done now with all the sensors because measurement will improve the management, and the units of water, the units of nitrogen that can be saved by those type of managements and recording to go back and analyze can be a significant step, can generate a significant step in improvement of the production systems. So there is a lot of innovation, and with the students, I'm really attracted to this area. You have to take them to the field. They have to learn the crops and then design or think about how to improve these management systems with all these new technologies. Another change which we think is a big improvement, is include risk management. Risk management either by insurance, from safety nets, as tools for sustainability of the farmers. And okay, small scale farming, and I'm talking small, this is Africa, is specific support from social, economic, and extension services. Of course, there are agronomic issues, but usually is the structure of the land tenure, the access to, not only the access to fertilizers, there's more than that, because we awarded recently a prize in Spain to a French economist that studied poor families in Africa, and the thing is they had the fertilizer, but the woman who was the one that worked in the farm had so much work, she couldn't even think medium term, that she had to apply the fertilizer that was supplied by the government. So very complex issues in these very low income countries. Anyway, a consequence of this change is that we need to produce skilled staff, be it for the enterprises, for the administration, or later on for doing some research. Grain and livestock enterprises will be established across climate zones, to reduce the variability of production. This is being done. This is being done. So our students have to think not only for a special place, they have to think globally. I know it's a widely used word, but it's like that. So how do we match this with the higher education structure? We currently have bachelor degrees 3 years, Master of Science 2 years, PhD 4 years, an example, graduate 4 years, Masters 1 to 1 year and a half, PhD 4 years. Then of course there are the other courses on demand from agribusiness and public administration. Public administration. So in the old days, and we miss that sometimes, we had the ingénieur agronome, which was 5 years, following the French structure, but we are changing to the Bologna structure. So instead of talking about bachelor and masters, I'm going to present the capacities linked to other technicians, engineers, and scientists. I will go through scientists faster and present what we think it's a possibility. So technicians could be 3 years, and I will focus on production systems, on crop production, on animal production, for food security, which is the talk. They would have a basic understanding of crop and animal production systems, also dealing with pest diseases, principles of operation of measuring equipment, and measuring, knowing what they're measuring, what are the parameters. I think that can be done in 3 years easily. The engineers, 5 years, be it 5 years straight or 3+2, they would have to be able to design and manage agricultural operations or work in the industry with complex infrastructure, including internal measurement systems, etc. So there is the need of a wide range of specialization. Of course, knowing about soil plant, soil crop environment, but also, and we think is crucial, socio-economic issues. They will be able then to have a holistic view. We don't want an engineer who knows about irrigation and doesn't see the whole picture of agricultural systems, doesn't see the whole picture of problems with salinity, or in some countries access to water, and benefits in the enterprise. Okay. So for this, we need strong basic and scientific and socioeconomic education. When I say basic, I say maths, physics, chemistry, and biology, with all the range of subjects in biology. A further specialization could be done afterwards. But the strong basic for education is needed in order that the student can switch to one technology to another within a range and be able to adapt for changes. Okay. So in scientists, okay, I won't stay a lot in that. We know what a thesis, doing a PhD thesis involves and is focused. And but even so, training should produce researchers who can apply their training later more broadly. So they are specialized in research, but they must have, maybe not in all the cases, but they must have the possibility to open the work after the thesis. We are generating PhD students very reductionist view, which is useful, but some other education is needed. Like in the States, they used to have subjects that open their minds. So the unifying factor is appropriate levels of biology, mathematics, chemistry, and socioeconomics. I should have included there physics, and a capacity that will allow them to adapt to changing technologies. That is a big requirement. And some points here, I would like to highlight this one. The question of flexibility for movement between the technicians and the engineering, and then the PhD, is a major issue for us, because engineers would need a higher level of maths, physics, and chemistry, which is not given to the graduates. So how to move from one level to another? Before it was easy. We had 5 years of engineering, and we moved from maths, physics, to the focused subjects. So I am going to end the talk with 3 examples of what our students can do alone or with us lecturers in the master thesis or in the graduate thesis, dealing, for instance, once they know the basics of crop physiology and agronomy, they can understand why and how vines can be adapted. This is a sprawl vine trellis for environments with higher temperatures, how through radiation balances, temperature evolution and temperature profiles, and so they can understand the better environment of the raisins. They have to understand about production costs and marketing, how it's going to market. Some of them are more specifically focused on the cultivar. Some are working on hybrids in vines. They have to know about deficit irrigation, but they have to understand the assimilate partitioning that is behind pruning. All these are subject areas that are driving the changing in orchards, soil management, mechanization, etc. Drones and robots, when possible, they don't have to know the electronics, but they have to know what they measure and when, and what to do with the data. And the picture below is a high-intensive olive production, super intensive. This is a system developed in Spain from people that came from the vine sector and from other horticultural sectors that didn't have the narrow mind of seeing an olive orchard as traditionally. So they changed and they're working on this. Of course, there are changes in job requirements, etc., and costs, so they have to analyze all that. There's a lot of innovation involved in this, improving these systems. This is done, the olive plantations and the works can be done with farmers. Farmers involved and farmers demand. So there is a link to industry. There is a link also with the olive oil industry. You see the quality and so on. Another example, so that merges it. Okay, we use satellite images for drought risk monitoring and generate index insurance. You can establish that there is a drop in pasture production because rain is lower, and all rain stops raining from a certain point. You can monitor that through satellites. You can interpret the satellite images. Okay, that's done, but you need to go further. And the students need to improve on studying these indexes. Is there a season or some days where the satellite is not enough, or some vegetation index is not enough? You need another one. So that has to be done by the engineers, and they can do it. That's done in some work. And finally, let's see how our research center works and how it integrates the studies they've been doing in our courses, plus inputs from other specialties. So you have crop monitoring, you have the sensors, remote sensing, drone, low cost, communications, big data. They love that, students love that, but they are applying that. It's networks, communication of weather data, etc. But then you need the alarm systems. So you need support models, you need crop simulation models, you need meteo indices, vegetation or vegetative indices, historical data to analyze the relation with yields, an expert system, neural networks, data science. This can be done if they have a background with mathematics, and in the lectures they can learn that. So this is really jumping ahead very quickly, which is one of our worries, the flexibility of our studies. And to finish, well, for discussion, science, technologies, and social science, critical thinking. They must have critical thinking, otherwise they will make a mess. Links between technicians and engineers, duration of degrees, postgraduate and or postdoctoral, the continuous training. And thank you. Okay.